thing fell down. I got it up and now I look like a mechanic. I'm like, why is Mufti's fingers black? Is he some type of tasawwuf? Today again? Allah Mustaan. Tayyip. If there are any questions here, then we'll try to take them. It's done now, Shahriyan. Yeah, damage is. Jazakallah khairan. You have a question, Shahriyan? Fadal.
How did the Shafi, how do they make it down that it's recommended, even though the Hadith says that make walima even if it's with one sheet? How did they come up with it's recommended while the others said that?
Clear. Well, in general, the different schools of thought, both the Imams and the disciples, sometimes, all right, so let's talk about usul al-fiqh now, okay? In usul al-fiqh, and a big part of usul al-fiqh is the Arabic language. And in the Arabic language, we have that which is called fi'lu amr, or sighatu amr. If'al, do. Ijlis, sit. Uskut, keep quiet. Kul, eat. Whether I'm speaking to one person, two people, or three, etc. Nah? So, and the same in English and other languages as well. So I'm telling you what to do. So the scholars of usul, that discipline, they say, or many of them, not all of them, but they say, is that whenever we have a fi'l amr, a command in the Quran or hadith, then that act that Allah is telling us to do, or the Messenger of Allah ﷺ is telling us to do, that act is mandatory by default until proven that it's only recommended or mubah. Right? Whatever that act may be. Stand, pray, fast, eat, etc. Now, so they say that if there's another hadith or another ayah in which Allah allows us to do something else, or says it's okay if you do this, there's no sin upon you if you do that, then they say that proves that that command was only for recommendation. That it was recommended for you to sit down. Right? So if I tell you, sit down. Or if I say, close your book. Close your book. By default, you're supposed to do what? Close the book. But then later on I say, I think it's better for you to pay attention instead of writing notes. Clearly proving that you don't what? Have to close the book, but it's best. But if you keep it open, that's fine. But if I did make that second statement later on, then it would be mandatory to do what? Close the book until proven otherwise. Understand? So therefore, there are many different issues in which there's a command in the Quran, a command in the hadiths, and there are other ayat, other hadiths, or consensus is that it's only recommended or it's only makruh. That's fine. But the problem is when we have the fi'l amr and there's no hadith or ayah stating otherwise, and a scholar comes along and says, it's only recommended. That's the problem. You understand? Whether it be here or 100 other issues. There are many different issues like this, many times, in which a scholar just, says it's not obligatory. It's not obligatory. Trust me. From where are you getting that from? You understand? Wallahu alam. And obviously the correct view is to stick with the wujub until it's proven to be mustahab. Wallahu ta'ala alam. That's in brief. Hamza.
Do you have any tips for memorizing Quran or memorizing Hadith consistency?
Tips for memorizing Quran and Hadith. Consistency. You have to be consistent. You have to do it every day, every week, every month, every year. You have to stick to it, stay at it. In which you train your mind, you force your mind to obey and to follow, let alone the rhythm and the momentum. Starting, stopping, starting, stopping, starting, stopping. That's the cancer that so many of us suffer from. You can't start and stop. So even if it's a little bit, but every day. Understand? And obviously the more you do it consistently, the less painful it becomes. Like running. First time you run, you feel like your chest is going to explode, right? You're out of breath. But you keep running, and then what? It's not so bad. Or you go to the gym, right? You're sore, it's killing me, my muscles. But you what? Next thing you know, it's not as bad. كذا الحفظ. And there are many other tips as well. If I could give you one now, it would be to be consistent. Wallahu alam. Yes.
question. That, for example, sometimes we have certain views, certain madahib that follow a view which ends on a weak hadith.
Mm-hmm.
So we see collections of hadith and that talk about ahkam, right, like Bulugh al-Maram and Usul al-Ahkam, which include oftentimes hadith which are, on the weaker side, and certain madhab take upon it. So, like, what is like for the layman, for example?
Understood.
What are we supposed to?
Crystal clear. You're going to follow the teachings of your teachers. And if it's something specific that's not a part of your normal teaching, you'll ask. And you'll follow the view of that alim. As far as if you're studious and you're reading and studying, you stick with that which you're sure of. And you stick with that which makes the most sense to you. These are great scholars. I respect them. But this is the core of their argument, why I can't eat with my left hand. That's an example. And the hadith is clearly weak, extremely weak. Sorry, Malik, it doesn't make sense. What? To me, the Prophet ﷺ, this hadith, that hadith, eat it, and they say, no, you can't. Or you can't wear this color. Or you can't do this. Or you can't get married like this. And the main proof that they're using is what? Is clearly da'if. You stick with that which what? Makes the most sense to you. Is that the only proof that they had? Did they have other proofs and evidences? Maybe, but that's their main argument. That's a problem. Wallahu alam. And obviously, using a weak hadith, levels of hadith being weak, is there a difference of opinion on a hadith being weak versus the hadith is clearly, totally, extremely weak? Versus is ikhtilaf. It could be hasan or it could be da'if. That's a different story. Versus this hadith is clearly munkar, clearly rejected, clearly weak, and that's the foundation of their opinion. You understand? So there are details, but that's the basic rationale of that. Wallahu ta'ala alam. فضل أخي نعود إليك عودا إن شاء الله عودا حسنا تفضل. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Is the view that when initiating the Eid Salah, it's only sunnah to raise the hands for the opening takbir, and for the rest of the takbirat, it should not be raised?
It's optional. The first takbir, for sure, the hand should be raised without any doubt. The additional takbirat, if you want to raise them, raise them. And if you don't raise them, you don't necessarily have to raise them because of the lack of hardcore, concrete evidence. Me personally, I would raise my hands for every takbirah, whereas that's the asl. And those takbirat, even if they're not the ihram takbirah, they closely resemble it. You're not making a different position. You're still standing. It's right after the first takbir. It only makes sense for them to be like the Wallahu ta'ala alam. Fadl ya akhi. Wa assalam wa rahmatullah.
I have a friend of mine who I've spoken to regarding this issue of asking the Prophet and that he thinks it's permissible too, and he brought up a hadith regarding that one of the Sahaba had asked the Prophet after passing. Do you know of any hadith?
طيب. Barakallahu feek. Asking the Prophet ﷺ for something after his death. Are there hadith on it? A man asked the Prophet after his death, so on, and so forth. At the end of the day, whatever you need, you ask Allah for it. Period. For argument's sake, the person says it's not shirk to make istighatha with the Prophet ﷺ, to seek help, talabul ghawth, to seek aid. The person says it's not shirk. Doesn't mean that it's halal. Just because a scholar said that it's not shirk does not mean that he didn't say it was halal and not haram. Mixing two things up. For argument's sake, next point. A scholar said it was lawful and recommended. What have you left for Allah? How connected are you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Something goes wrong, you're in a tight situation, your heart should turn to who first and foremost? No doubt about that. You're getting in a car accident, you're about to do this, you're about to do that. Yeah, Nabi. Something's off, to say the least. It's life or death situation, a very tight situation. The Muslim, first and foremost, no doubt about it, his heart should turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his Lord, the Lord of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. our prophet, our messenger, our leader, our master. That's a fact. So many people who make this argument, what type of people are they? You can make istighatha with the prophet. It's not shirk. Or those who say it's haram, or those who say that it's lawful. Those who say that it's not shirk, but it is haram. And those who say that it's lawful and it's not haram, let alone shirk. Right? What is the quality of those people? There are people who make dua to Allah day and night. Or you find that door open, the next thing you know, the prophet as well as this wali. And then there's another shrine you have to visit. Huh? And then there's another grave. And then there's another mashhad. And the next thing you know, before you know, you have what? You have a keychain full of walis that you pull out for your door of dua. That's a fact. So a person dealing with the issue from a scholastic standpoint, a person says, I do not feel from evidence, from proof and evidence that is shirk, but I believe it's haram. A person from a scholastic standpoint, from proof and evidence says, I found this hadith, I found this, we say, Assalamu alaikum ayyuhan nabi, etc., etc. The Prophet, anyone who gives me salams returns my soul back to me, etc. From a scholastic point of view, he says that it's lawful. Or someone is just following cultural Islam, someone that comes from a country full of graves and mausoleums and shrines, in which they hang candles and give sadaqah and give candy and sweets and baklava and corn syrup dripping on pancakes to those graves. They have lights and lanterns in the graveyards. You guys get the point I'm trying to make? Who's dealing with this issue? Like the niqab. A man says, I don't believe a woman has to cover her hands and her face. Scholastically, dalil. Versus niqab isn't obligatory. You don't have to wear niqab because my wife gets stared at when she goes out in public. Or the police pull her over. Or the rest of the family members, they make fun of her. Or my wife works. You understand the difference? The beard, no difference. A person says it's lawful to trim the beard because of the proof versus I want to trim my beard, that way I don't get stopped and harassed in the airport. Because the first thing that non-Muslims think about when they see a big beard is this one and that one is going to blow something up, kill everybody, kill all the infidels. You guys get the point I'm trying to make? So there's a difference of scholastic research that leads you to an opinion that you sincerely believe in your heart versus you just following the trend, versus you just following your desires, let alone what's going to happen if a scholar comes along and says you can call upon the prophet. Who is he telling that to? A land of monotheists, people of Tawheed, or a bunch of people that already have a big major problem with graves and shirk and talismans and amulets and sihr and this and this and that. And if you travel the Muslim world, you go to the different Muslim countries, don't take it from me, you'll see it with your own two eyes. The people sitting in front of the mausoleums, I've seen it with my own eyes in a few countries that I've been to. I haven't been to all of the Muslim lands. You'd be appalled. Something out of a movie, literally. It's a huge, big, gigantic grave, and they're sitting around it with candles, with sweets, praying, making dua. Are they praying to Allah, or are they praying to the wali? Is it shirk, is it haram? Al-Muhim, it's clear that their hearts are not what? Directly connected to Allah Azza wa Jal for their needs, their wants. So I think that any person who talks about this issue, I think he should think before he speaks on this issue and publicizes that issue. And once again, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, if you hate Ibn Abdul Wahhab, Muhammad ibn Wahhab is this, he's a that, he's a this, he's a British agent, and call him whatever you want. But just make sure you're following Kitab and Sunnah. And just make sure that you're practicing Tawheed yourself. If it's Ibn Taymiyyah, blah, 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 make sure that you're following what? The Kitab and Sunnah. Ibn Taymiyyah is the only one to say this. He's the only one to bring this Aqeedah. Just make sure you're affirming Allah's names and attributes as in the Kitab and Sunnah. Don't get caught up in a man. People, they hate a man so much, they become blind from proof and evidence. They love a person so much, they become blind from proof and evidence. Islam did not start with Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, nor did it end with his death. The Aqeedah of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah did not begin with Ibn Taymiyyah, nor did it stop with his death. The Aqeedah of Islam did not start with Imam Ahmad, nor did it end with his what? With his death. The Aqeedah from Kitab and Sunnah. When you ask Allah. You seek help, you seek the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, that's my answer to that question. And it's a very, very dangerous issue, which many people take very lightly. And they're responsible for people falling into shirk. Wal-iyadhu billah. May Allah protect us from that. Ameen. Wallahu a'lam. Shahriya.
We said that the hadith regarding the iron ring, it was false because it was based on a weak hadith. And that's all that was required to say. So who first said that a weak hadith would make it false? Like, who first came up with this? Who first?
Just like we said with regards to usul al-fiqh, there are different rulings regarding using a weak hadith. Rather, there are differences of opinion on the conditions of a sahih hadith. This scholar says it's da'if, but another one says, no, this is maqbool. Understand? So therefore, there are many hadiths over which the scholars of Islam differ on their authenticity because of theory, or they agree on this being a condition, but they believe that here is hasan. This one isn't da'if. So you as a student of knowledge, you have to study usul fiqh. You have to study usul al-hadith thoroughly. The stronger you are in those two principles, the easier it will be for you to navigate through all of these masail of khilaf. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Fadl, yes.
How to deal with a member of a family that essentially either struggles with prayer or willingly does not pray or does not seem to, outwardly doesn't seem to, have Islam. How do you, although you have advised that person, they become angry?
Tight.
How do you deal with that?
If you've advised them and they become angry and mad, khalas. You've done your job, leave them be. Don't harass them any further, don't molest them any further, leave them be. Don't argue, don't fight, leave them be. Give them their rights as a family member, and that's it. Hate them for the sake of Allah. And if it's a benefit for them and a protection for you, you boycott them for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's it. Don't abuse, don't badger them. Pray for them, make dua for them. And you have no choice but to meet them on common ground. They don't want to talk about the salah, but they'll sit at the table and eat breakfast with you. They still believe in Allah. They say assalamu alaikum, da da da. You basic comment. Take what they give you. Meet them on mutual ground. But when it's time to pray, you pray. But if a person is just obstinately going against the truth, then obviously how you deal with them is going to be based off of that. But the reason why I'm saying that is that we live in a time, once more, in which religion, spirituality, let alone Islam, is a strange thing. We live in a secular world in which being pious and righteous and observant of God or gods, the other religions, is a what? It's not the majority. So you being religious and pious and observant, you are the minority. So you have to be careful and mindful of who you boycott and who you're going to avoid, not to do more harm to what? Yourself. Let alone the sad reality is that there are many people who have bad experiences with religious people or bad experiences with people who follow sunnah or whatever, unfortunately, and then they have an attitude problem, and then they just justify their disobedience. I don't pray because this person hollered at me, right? Our sister says, I don't wear hijab because the sisters who wear hijab, they all have attitude problems. And the sister, she pulled me on the street. That's not an excuse. That's not a justification. Is it a reason for a human being? Yes. But it's not a justification. So you got to be mindful of that. Okay? Dealing with people. Try your best to have the best manners. Try your best to be cordial, professional. And if a person is being stubborn to the truth, you do what's necessary. But be mindful of keeping the door of dawah always open. That's the point I'm trying to get to. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Afwan? Fadl.
NH, New York City, USA. Should the other wives go to the wali?
Excuse me. Should the other wives go to the walima? Why not? They're Muslims. Why shouldn't they? If it's going to be a fitna, if it's lack of harmony or they have discord or they're fighting or whatever, or whether this one's extremely jealous or extremely insecure, or they're going to fight, they're going to do a fist fight, that's one thing. That's one thing. But if there's general harmony and respect, why shouldn't they go? That's your sister in Islam, let alone that's your co-wife. And people, they get caught up in forgetting things. Who this person is, your co-wife, she is your Muslim sister. Period. End of sentence. She shares your faith. So you're supposed to make dua for her. You're supposed to be happy for her. You're supposed to give her a gift, etc., etc. And even if things are a little uncomfortable, or there's feelings, or she did this and she said this, or there's insecurity or jealousy or whatever, make it jihad on nafs. And you go to the walima as a professional Muslim. You personally, if it was up to me, I wouldn't speak to you. I wouldn't look your way. But I can't have that attitude because you pray, because you wear the same hijab that I wear, because you believe in Allah in the last day just like I do. So I have to be a professional Muslim. I have to fight myself, swallow my pride, my anger, go to the walima, barakallahu laki wa baraka alayki, here's my gift, jazakallah khair, a little plate, rice, meat, assalamu alaikum. You have to do that, right? So it's a big problem. People's marriages, people's feelings, let alone, polygyny. Many people, they think that polygyny is some type of, foreign, outer space type of system, when it's very simple and pragmatic. This is your Muslim sister. Let alone the fact that whether you like it or not, whether you hate her, whether you're jealous with, she has the same husband that you do. So it only makes sense for you guys to get along and to make the best out of the situation, let alone raising a family and making things easy upon the husband and simple for the husband, right? And there's so many different other issues that pertain to that. Wallahu alam.
Last from New York, is wearing the niqab extreme for the West? What is your advice for someone wanting to wear it?
If a sister wants to wear the niqab, living in the West or the East, she should do so. Covering your face, the center of your beauty, no doubt, is closer to piety. That is an undisputable fact. And anyone who says other than that doesn't know what they're talking about. Period. No man in his right state of mind is going to see two women, one with the face and hands covered, one without the face and hands covered, and he's going to, no man in his right mind is going to differ that the woman that's fully covered is more covered. Her modesty, her beauty is what? It's just common sense. So is it obligatory? Is it not? Common basic sense. Aql, basic mindset. I can see her lips, her nose, her cheeks, the color of her skin, her eyes, this and that. Her hands, her fingertips, she has very delicate hands. Soft hands, fingertips, mashallah. She's beautiful versus this woman is standing in front of me and I can't what? Common sense would tell you that is better hijab. Mandatory or not, Arab custom or not, Wahhabi or not, but common sense is going to tell you that this is more modest. Common sense, right? And one of the worst problems that we suffer from today is a person fighting common sense. It's a big problem in the ummah. Let alone if that problem comes from a scholar, alim, who gives a fatwa that goes against basic common sense, like the istighatha. Common sense would tell you to make dua to Allah first and foremost, bro. Why would you call upon anyone else? What sense does that make? Life or death situation, let me call on the Prophet. Let me call on this wali who can hear my dua. It's not shirk. Common sense doesn't necessitate that, right? So therefore, if you want to wear the niqab and gloves, you want to cover your hands and the face, there's no doubt you should do that. That's closer to piety, regardless whether it's obligatory or not. Anyone who says that that's extreme in the West, make dua for that person. If it's extreme to cover your hands and the face in the West, okay. I know people, scholars, doctors who say it's extreme to cover your hair in the West. It's extreme to pray 5 times a day in the West. It's extreme to stay away from riba. It's extreme not to shake a woman's hand, right? That's rude. You go on a business meeting or at a funeral, she extends her hand and that's extreme. Why can't you shake her hand? Why can't you do this? Why can't you go over your family's house for Thanksgiving? Sit with your family, enjoy the turkey. It's not pork. It's extreme not to celebrate. And next thing you know, you're what? Your deen is gone, right? La ilaha illallah.
Hamilton, Canada. Some women wear high heels in public. This shows the top part of the foot. This is permissible. And how about if they wear dark stockings, usually still transparent?
I wouldn't advise a woman who's of age to wear high heel shoes or raised heels in public, even if they're not high heel, like, stilettos, right? 7-inch, 9-inch, or whatever. Any shoe that has a raised heel, I wouldn't recommend. Not only does it show your foot or parts of your feet, but it also has an effect on how you walk. And most importantly, let's not forget, many people, they don't deal with the reality, the common sense. When a person wears high heel shoes, it has an effect on their ego. Their spirit is different. That's a fact, huh? You ever wore hard bottoms? Huh? You go somewhere or you dress like that every day, you walk, you hear the shoe clicking and clacking. How you feel? How do you feel? Guys, everyone, hard bottoms feel what? It has an effect on you. You wear sneakers. How do you feel when you walk? You feel quick, you feel fast, right? You wear boots. How do you feel? Right or wrong? In your house, you wear slippers, the fuzzy, slippers, the big slippers, right? How do you feel? You feel sleepy and comfortable and warm and cozy. Is this not the case? You feel relaxed. And the same applies when a woman wears those shoes that cost $200, $300, $400, $500, $600, $700. How do you think her ego is going to be? How do you think she's going to walk and sit and talk? Shyness, hishma. And what type of hijab is she going to wear with high heel shoes? Long, loose, flowing hijab? No way. Those high heel shoes got to coordinate with the bag, with the watch, with the ring, with the bracelets, with the hijab, because it's an aqidah. It's not just a shoe. Just like a man who's wearing combat boots, he's not going to wear a 3-piece suit. Is this not the case? You're going to feel rugged and tough. It's a reality. Okay, so no Muslim woman should wear high heel shoes or raised shoes in public, period. Whether her feet are covered or not. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Toronto, Canada, that's your chef. Do you advise to someone who's falling into major sins and is getting desensitized and is not doing anything anymore?
Right. Well, first and foremost is, if you're asking this question, then you're not desensitized. You still feel bad. You may be desensitized to an extent, but you still have some shame and guilt. So that's a good sign. Don't despair, don't lose hope, don't give up. Secondly, as we have explained in the African proverb, never look where you fall or never look where you fell, but look where you slipped, they say. Don't look where you fall down, but look where you slipped, how you fell. So why are you continually making this sin? What's causing you to be a chronic habitual sinner, let alone a major sin? Your eyes, your ears, your thoughts, your locations, your friends, your profession, your vocation, etc., etc. So you need to get to the root cause of this habit. Once you get to the root cause, inshallah ta'ala, you take the necessary means. And every time you make a sin, no matter what, how many times you did it, make tawbah. Don't despair, don't lose hope, make tawbah. It's better to make tawbah and fall back into it instead of never making tawbah at all. وَنَسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى وَنَتُوبُ إِلَيْهِ.
AM from Schenectady, New York. Can you make the Hajj prayer 30 minutes before 5?
Yes, that's lawful. You can make prayer at night, anytime before the coming of Salat al-Fajr. It's lawful.
Birmingham, UK, may Allah bless you. Is it obligatory to rub the inside of the mouth when doing wudu?
Is it obligatory to rub the inside of the mouth when doing wudu? No. Some scholars, many scholars hold the view that you have to put water in the mouth and the nose, which is the correct view, inshallah. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to rub. No. Wallahu alam.
AH, Queens, New York. Can I teach people English so they can pass the citizenship test? What is the ruling on this and what is your opinion on it?
Teaching people English is a job, it's a profession. What the people do with that English afterwards isn't your responsibility. Unless you know that it's directly helping them to disobey Allah or kill Muslims or whatever the case may be. And if that's not the case, you're a teacher. They may use English for good, for bad, for a girlfriend, for a fiance, to rap, to sing, al-muhim. You're teaching English. Wallahu alam.
Same questioner, can someone take money from their provider if they know that money they make is haram, for example?
They should not take the money unless it's a necessity. Unless it's the only source of income, they have no other alternative. And if that's not the case, they should avoid eating that haram wealth. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. UH, Brooklyn. How much of dowry or mahar should be given back if the women ask for a khula before consummation of the marriage? Jazakallah khairan.
Repeat the question, please.
How much of the dowry or mahar should be given back if the woman asks for a khula before consummation of the marriage?
Before the consummation of the marriage, the best thing to do is to absolve the woman. Period. You didn't consummate the marriage. She wants a khula for one reason or another. Let her go without, taking the money. That's the best thing to do. When ta'fu, Allah says for you to pardon, that's what? Aqrabu lit-taqwa. It's the best thing to do. As far as if you cannot agree, then that's a different story with regards to half, what was mentioned, so on and so forth. But the best thing to do is the what? Wallahu alam.
That's wrong, New York. Allah bless you and protect you. I mean, when in prayer, when it is just me and my wife in prayer, and I make a mistake reciting the Quran, can she correct me?
Can a woman correct her husband? If it's just you guys in the house, why not?
SN, Melbourne, Australia. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. If a person says offensive words out of anger towards destiny after he is inflicted with something, is this kufr?
It depends on what you said. What's important is if it was extreme anger, then hopefully you're pardoned and excused, inshallah ta'ala. But don't say it again. Make tawbah. And after you make those offensive words towards destiny, make sure you say amantu billahi wa rasulihi. Right? Wallahu alam.
Advice, AAF, actually, don't forget about it. AF Minneapolis. Thoughts of studying hadith in Mauritania.
Excuse me. Go study wherever you can, wherever you have the ability to study. I've never been to Mauritania, but I've met many people, shuyukh, teachers, students that knew many hadiths in Mauritania. If you have the ability to go to Mauritania, if you went to Mauritania and got nothing but the Arabic language, that will be more than enough. It wouldn't be a wasted trip. If you went to Mauritania for 2 years or 5 years, you learned no sciences, just Lugha al-Arabiya, khalas. Now you have the ability to study, to memorize by yourself, online, long distance. You can read the books, you can listen to the classes, for argument's sake. Let alone you go to Mauritania and you meet with scholars and students there, right? But if you went there and that's all you got, that's more than an accomplishment. It's a life accomplishment. So if you have the ability to go, I would advise you to go. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
SN Melbourne, Australia. I missed the first rak'ah in congregation for Isha, but the Imam at the end mistakenly prayed an extra rak'ah. Will this count as my fourth rak'ah and therefore complete my prayer?
Repeat the question, please.
So he prayed Isha, and he missed the first rak'ah. The Imam mistakenly prayed an extra rak'ah.
Right.
Does that complete his prayer?
Understood. Can he follow the Imam? Will that count as his last rak'ah? It depends. Obviously, he's asking the question now in hindsight. But if you're in the masjid and you don't know that it was an extra rak'ah, you follow the Imam. If it's made clear to you afterwards that that was a mistake, he wasn't supposed to do that, technically, from one aspect, you're following the Imam. His mistake isn't your sin or your fault. You followed him in an extra rak'ah. And perhaps it's better for you to follow him in that, even though it's a mistake, instead of you making a rak'ah by yourself. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Sharia, fadal.
So with regards to not imitating women, you mentioned about the saffron perfume, which is like orange. So are these things like which were considered for women in the past still always?
Understood.
And also when it comes to different cultures.
Understood.
Here, over the rest.
Clear. It's best to avoid. Let's say, for argument's sake, that it's outdated or different cultures. Best to what? Avoid. However, the wisdom of the prohibition is imitating kuffar. or imitating women, excuse me. So for argument's sake, if it's something which is no longer exclusive to women, different story. But that doesn't mean that it becomes lawful, such as gold. It doesn't, a person can make an argument, men can wear gold. Gold could be a sign of royalty. It doesn't mean that a person has an inferior spirit, etc., etc., etc. Doesn't mean you can wear pure gold. You get what I'm trying to say? But if it's something that isn't as strong as that and it was exclusive to the time of the Prophet, then it's possible, such as wearing pants. Can a woman wear pants in 2022? There's no doubt a woman wearing pants doesn't necessarily have to, it doesn't have to be manly, especially if it's pants, made for a woman. But in those times, no doubt. So it depends. Wallahu alam. And the best thing is to avoid, for sure. Fadl, yes.
AH, Queens, New York. Should people ask their imams of their area to help them to look for a spouse if their parents are not helping? Or is this degrading one's parents' honor?
No, it's not. It's not degrading your parents' honor.
Or his honor?
If your parents aren't helping you, and then you ask your local imam, that's fine, Islamically. But culturally, different story. Why aren't your parents helping you to find marriage? Because they believe you're not ready, or there are other things, other problems. It's a different story. But in general, your imam is your religious guide, your religious leader, and from your religious needs is getting married. Okay, and even for argument's sake, even if the imam finds a sister or brother for you, then you can go through the funnel of your parents. The imam may have a network or clout or whatever the case may be. There's nothing wrong with that. Wallahu alam. But if it's something which is totally culturally rejected, it is unacceptable in your culture and is considered disrespect to the parents, try your best to avoid that. Wallahu alam.
Assalamu alaikum. Abu Khalid in Call Minnesota. Please explain the relevance of the narrator of hadith being free from major sins and constant minor sins. If the individual is truthful, why does it matter?
I'll tell you. Why does the narrator of hadith has to be someone or has to be far from major sins and also minor sins? If he's truthful, why does it matter? So on and so on and so forth. There's no honor amongst thieves. Right? There's no honor what? Among thieves. So this person is clearly, publicly, openly disobeying the law. How can you trust that person's word? Now, for argument's sake, I know people that drink alcohol and people that are kuffar. Make shirk and kufr, let alone disobedient Muslims. And if they tell you something, you know it's the truth. They do not lie. Some people lying isn't from their problems. Can't trust them. This can't that, but lie, if he says, but in the science of hadith, precaution takes precedence. Precaution is dominant over all other things. So this person is making fisk, he's disobeying the law openly, publicly. There's no reliance you can place in that person's honor, that person's word, even if he's a truthful person, right? Wallahu ta'ala alam. But for argument's sake, a kafir could be what? More honest than some Muslims, unfortunately. You may go to the bar. Some brothers in the bar, they're what? More upright than some people in the masjid. Nobody quote me on that one, huh? Mufti Muhammad Ibn Munir says what? The Muslims in the bar. But Sheikh Khan, would you attest to that? They may be more upright, solid men. I have my drinking problem, this and that, but I don't have two faces. But the brother in the masjid, Assalamu alaikum, alhamdulillah, mashallah, he has three faces. It's reality. It's reality. May Allah help us. I mean.
What is the ruling on the husband divorcing the wife on his deathbed?
Tayyib. Well, yakum. This will be our last question tonight. The husband, if he divorces his wife on his deathbed for a legitimate reason, then it's divorce. As far as if he's only divorcing her to harm her or to spite her or to prevent her from being his heir, then obviously that's unlawful. And many scholars, they don't allow it, period. Because they say in most cases he's only doing it to hurt her at the last, point or state of his life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. We'll stop here tonight. Thank you very much for watching, for joining, and for tuning in. وجزاكم الله خيرا. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد.